Welcome back to the VHP, everyone. We are moving on in the sugyas of Ohel. Today we have some amazing sugyas over here from the Gemara. Really a little bit through the Rishonim, down to the Achronim, how they learn these sugyas and how we come out to very important halacha l'maisa shaylas today, all based on how we're going to learn these sugyas. We go back to the beginning of Hilchos Ohel, where we learn Mechitza at the beginning, the three different levels of Ohel, Daf Kufla Mechesam and Aleph Mesechet Shabbos, page 2 of our Marmakomos. We saw then that there are three levels. There are certain Ohels that we could build like a Kila over here. The Gemara tells us it's going to be Patel of Arasa. Ohel Keva is going to be Chayiv Chatas, and then the Gemara says, Havalmita v'kisei traskel the asla mutter lintosan lichatchila. Okay, and the question over here, what's going on over here? Why is it going to be mutter to build certain alim, these mita, kisei, traskel, and asla? Why is it going to be mutter l'tosan l'chatchila? That's really what we're going to focus on today and get to very important dinim over here. Now, says Rashi over here on this sugya. Rashi tells us, dibar maschil, aval mita. Okay, mita is the first example over here that's mutter to do. Aval mita shalanu mucharim v'omedis. It's a table that is already connected. Kufa o mutal al. If it is lying on its side, says Rashi, mutalim tosa liyashral orgel, you can flip it over and put it on its legs. V'afa gavta hashto ovid ohel, even though technically now I'm making an ohel, shari, delo midi ovid el yisuva ba'alma. All I did was I placed it onto its front. I haven't really done an action over here. Based on this Rashi, one little side point, the Be'er Lacha points out, page 19 of your Mareh Mekomos, Be'er Lacha, Dibra Masel Kisei, didn't make it highlighted, but it's an important din over here. That means if you have a folding table, okay, you have a folding table that is already opened up, legs open, it doesn't have to be a folding table, any other table that's sitting on its side, you are allowed to flip it over on Shabbos and put it on its legs. No problem. Beferish over here, that's what Rashi is describing over here, and that would be mutter lichatchila to go ahead and do. But then let's go back. We'll come back to this Rashi. Keep that Rashi in mind. Even more so is the Rashi Dibur Masel vi Asla. Rashi says you have this kisei traskel and this asla asui kein kisei traskel. The asla is basically like a folding chair, but this asla is the same word we have for a toilet. It is a toilet that's got a hole in the seat. Okay, kachshmo. Asui ken kisa traskel of ora parushal of nokuv lebesa kise. It has a hole in it in order to go to the bathroom. Motor lintosa lichatchila daha ovid v'koi. Daha ovid v'koi means because it's already put together. You're not really doing anything. It's there. It's all put together, and all I do is open the chair. That over here is a hole. If it's the asla, the kisei traskel is without a hole. All I'm doing is opening it and closing, but everything is already together. Mashma from Poshet Pshat Barashi Lanias Daiti. It seems to be Rashi is saying that things that are already connected, like a folding chair and the like, you are allowed to go ahead and open them on Shabbos because the ha'avidikoi, they are already put together, and therefore I'm not really doing a maisa of building an ohel. Building an ohel is putting mechitzas, putting a gag on top, or at least even building a gag. I'm not even building a gag over here. The gag is already there. It's just choser, just opening it up. And therefore, since it's on hinges, and it's all put together, all I do is open it up. It is not a maisa of ohel at all. Perhaps one kamedayik, you have it in the extra Mareh Mekomos, the brother-in-law of Rav Avram ben Harambam, Rabbeinu Prachia. You have in the extra Mareh Mekomos, Yeshikoach the Yedid, defining this one, even though one could learn, we'll soon see, similar to a Ritva's read, but over here, they look at the whole paragraph, he is discussing Dinei Ohel over here. He is discussing Dinei Ohel over here. He says, "V'chein etias mita kisei yatraskel kevin shekol ol eluhein mechubarim v'omnim." They're already mechubarim. Ei midiyas haim v'lo b'sikol shum iser. There is no problem of opening or closing on Shabbos. Lo mishum bona v'lo mishum soser. There's no problem of bona. There's no problem of soser. Dahainu ohel. Over here, there is no such problem. Okay. Tosas also points out that it has to be mamish put together. That's the point over the heter over here. Like Rashi once again, it's ovid v'koi, and therefore it is mutter to open it up. However, the Ritva, page 3 of your Mareh Mekomos, seemingly learning in Rashi. He brings down Perush Rashi, even though he seems to describe saying that Rashi is not exactly describing the same Metzias, but more importantly is the end of the Ritva. Whether Ritva is saying this himself or he's saying this shot in Rashi, it doesn't really matter. This is how the Ritva is holding. He says over here, V'kevan shekain, 4 lines from the end of the Ritva. V'kevan shekain, shekol elu dahainu the mita kisei traskel in the asla. Shekol elu lein asuin lishtamish tachteim. All these are examples of technical OLs, but they're not made to be used underneath. What we learned last week, okay, regarding certain things that are not made to use underneath. That's the heter, and the Ritva reinstates this heter over here. He says that's the heter by Kisei Traskel and Asla and the Mita over here, because Ein Aleim Shekevin She'ein Elu Anasuim Lishtamish Tachteim Ela Aleim Mutter Afilu Lechatchila. These are going to be mutter even Lechatchila to use on Shabbos. Okay? The Rambam, page 4 of your Maramkov's Kav Beis Kav Ches, seemingly has another way of learning out this sugya, but I want to really focus on, perhaps Tosas also, he talks about the Shinui, the case of Shinui over here. I really want to focus in on Rashi and the Ritva today, because that's what it seems to be that the post can bring down over here to learn out some amazing halacha l'maisa for today's shir. Now, le'inyan psak, it's very unclear how both the Beis Yosef, page 5 Yeramar Makomos, page 19 here of Marmakos, the Shulchan Aruch, how they exactly paskin, because all they do is they just bring down our case. Page 19, the Mechaber paskins over here, Kisei Aisui Prakim Kshirotzen Leishivala Potchenoto Ve'or Niftach Ukshem Mesiroto Sogunoto Ve'or Nichbal Mutter Lefatcho Lechatchila. You're allowed to go ahead and open it Lechatchila. Is it more of a Rashi, the Ovid, the Koib shot, or is it more of a Ritva because it's not used for underneath? That is very hard to tell over here from the Psak of the Shulchan Aruch. Over here, the same with the Beis Yosef. He does not seem to take sides over here. How exactly we paskin. But even though the Shulchan Aruch does not, the Achronim delve into this very strongly, depending on what the heter over here. How to understand the heter of Kisei Traskel Asla is going to be worlds of nafkaminas for us halacha l'maisa. Let's go directly into the Noda B'Yehuda, pages 10 through 16. It's a rather long tshuva over here. Noda B'Yehuda is not known for short tshuvas, okay? But we tried to present you the main aspects of the tshuva, especially the ones that are connected to our sugyas. Okay? The Noda B'Yehuda, Recheskel Landa, Zatzal, was also the Tzlach. Okay? Over here, the Noda B'Yehuda presents our shaila, which is going to be a major nafkamin in how to understand our sugya. And that is in terms of opening an umbrella on Shabbos. The shaila came, I guess, in the time of the Noda B'Yehuda, it started becoming popular umbrellas, perhaps even before then. But this shaila started to get very, very heated. Okay, you see over here on page 10 that there was already a big discussion amongst the Rabbanim. He brings down the shoal over here, mentions that a Chacham Echad wanted to be mater, v'achacham heishlo tamin lahater, and the Chacham said there's a reason to do. Umalasol chazer, and then the shoal answered back to heishlo listor tamia heterheim. The shoal over here in the Noda B'Yehuda wanted to be soser the rayas of that Chacham who was mater this umbrella to open it up on Shabbos and to use it on Shabbos. Okay, and the Noda B'Yehuda was asked, what is his opinion over here? So we open up the Noda B'Yehuda, and really what's really one of the main things that is pushing the Noda B'Yehuda, which is saying that is not directly connected to Kisei Traskel, it's the first line of the Gemara, and that's how to understand the sugya of Kilas Chasan. The Kila over here, the Gemara told us, back in page 2 of the Makomos, it said over here, that was one of the things is, V'tani good of Yishveres V'Kila, V'Kisei Galon lo yasim yasa pater v'lasar. Kila, okay, a canopy that people sometimes put over their beds, all the other things. If you have a kila, it is going to be pater v'lasar. That's an O that's going to be pater v'lasar. The Noda B'Yehuda points to the riff that you guys had in your Marmakoas, page 8, 9 in the riff. The riff says over there that a kila is only asar midrabanan mipnei she'ein begago tefach. Unlike if you look at Rashi over there, it says daf gets gago tefach. The riff writes it's because ein begago tefach. That's why it's pater lavarasar. The Ran, page 8, Dibra Maschel Talis Kfula in your Mar Makomos is medayik from the Rif. A simple diak over here in the Rif is that that's because Ein Bigago Tefach. Says the Ran. Perush of Avafasis Abachosa with Varat Alamat Shusaver Shekol Ol Kikila Ukiotziba Kol Shiesh Bigago Tefach Ubipachos Mishlosha Tfachim Sachel Gago Tefach Ol Kavua Avi V'Chayim Chatas. It's mashma from the Rif. If you have an ohel like a kila that has a tefach, that turns it into an ol kavua, and it'd be an iser d'oraisa to build such an ohel on Shabbos. Therefore, the Nod Yehuda says a couple different times. Look in page 12 of your Mar Makomos. The Nod Yehuda brings down over here and discusses over here in your highlighted part this Rif. And he says over here towards the middle, Shiim yesh begago opachos mishlosh gago tavach hareza oel kavua v'chayiv skila b'mezid v'chatas b'shogreg. Okay. Also, then he goes on. He says it brings down the base. Yosef brings this down. That's mashma b'divrei Rif like this also. So over here, you're dealing over here with a possible issa d'oraisa. You open up this umbrella much more than a tefach. You're dealing, says the Nod Yehuda, with a possible issa skila according to the Rif. Okay? And he says it a couple more times. Page 11. He says also, if you go back a page, he says, many people have used this umbrella. And people started to make on this on Shabbos. And I've protested against him with the Rashi Otom Ba'vizik as a Shuiser Gomer. V'amarti shafilu chashishani li'isr skila. And the Nod Yehuda takes very, very seriously this Rif, and he says, I'm afraid we're dealing with an isser skila over here. And then he says again, once again in page 13, Mi'ata parasal sheba'odu sagar mudubak ein sham shum davar lo ohel v'lo mochitza shekol davar yachta. When the umbrella is closed, it is not an ohel law. Ulamacha post the next day when you open it up, nasna mechitza simagag yesh kan chiyuv skila l'divrei arif. It would be a chiyuv skila l'divrei arif. Okay, and even though he says perhaps that's only when you have mechitzas magias la'aretz, he says aladochik ba'inei lechalik bein magia la'aretz olo shalom atzine kiyotze, but he doesn't like such a chiluk. Okay, so the Nod Yehuda was very, very influenced by this Rif and says that anything that is poteach tefach, that already is a chashash chiyuv chatas. And regardless of the fact that Rashi and other Rishonim don't learn like the Rif for sure, and they hold that the kila that we're talking about that's patel l'asr is only nisr d'Rabbanan is even one that has a tefach. Even more than this, points out the Chasam Sofer, page 17, 18 of your Mar Makomos, disagrees with the diak of the Nod Yehuda, and he holds it's true that the Rif would hold that certain things would be an Isser Da'araisa, but not this. Says the Chasam Sofer that unlike the Nod Yehuda rejected that it's only when you have mechitzas that are megias la'aretz to get the chiyuv chatas, the Chasam Sofer that is shot in the Rif. He says since an umbrella does not have mechitzas that are megias la'aretz, there's no way even in the world of the Rif you would ever get to a chiyuv chatas over here. And furthermore, suppose you can point out also, a kila, that could be like an ohel keva. You could leave that for a while. That could be something that could be something that's kavua, and it could be an ohel keva. Masha ein kain. When you're dealing with an umbrella gets opened, it's closed. To say that's an ohel keva, that's very, very difficult. One could even medayik from the Ran. Back in the Ran, page 8, the Ran said only something that is like a kila. Right? What did the Ran say? The Ran said, Lomachu sover shekol ohel kikilo kiyotzeba. Perhaps the only thing that starts out like a kilo that can be something that's kavua, only that can ever get to a chiyuv chatas. But this, an umbrella, to say it's an ohel keva, that's hard to grasp. And therefore, Rov Achronim for sure disagree with this Noda Yehuda that understands you can get to a Chi of Chatas by opening your umbrella. The Lashon of the Shulchan Shlomo, page 23 of your extra Marimakomos. Rosh Shlomo Zalman points out over here, says Rosh Shlomo Zalman quoted in the Shulchan Shlomo, he says, Abba B'mitriya, hu vadai arai u'memayla chashik hamosif. Okay, and then he says later on, he says in the bottom in the Hara, he neach ronim kulo dachu es dvarov v'lo kaimelan haki. All the achronim are docha, the words of the Noda Yehuda, and they hold he does not have once all the water that we're dealing with in this Daraisa over here. That is no way. Then the Noda Yehuda, regardless, for sure the Noda Yehuda took in consideration the fact that you're dealing with a Safek Isser Daraisa. But even more so, the Noda Yehuda goes on and is that even if you could fathom, maybe you get to Isser Daraisa, maybe it's still mutter to open an umbrella. And he first brings down, now this is where it comes so beautiful. We learn the Gemara, and we learn two different ways, perhaps even to learn Rashi. Okay? At least the way the Ritva seems to learn Rashi, and the way we said Pasha Pshat in Rashi. We open up the Noda Yehuda now to page 15, and he says like this. In the first paragraph, about 7 lines down, he says, "V'lechora kavanos Rashi b'zeh." He brings down a Gemara, and he brings down Rashi, David v'kai. He says, "L'chora kavanos Rashi b'zeh to lo tema de asr mishum shenoto ohel." Don't say that these kisei traskel aslo shulchan are a problem of making an ohel. Lachin katav de havid v'kai. That's what he means when he says havid v'kai. Sha'or l'malak faru al raglayim. Because the seat that is there, it's already sitting on its raglayim. All he's doing is a mice of spreading the raglayim zumizu to make the seat available. And therefore it's not like he's creating an ohel, it's aviv v'koi. V'inkein gama paraso, also the umbrella, because also the umbrella is there, it's on hinges, or you're doing is spreading it out, and therefore you're not really making an ohel. It's avid v'kai she'en elo marchib tzedado zamizeh umemela nishar oh v'lav midei avid da avid v'kai. Beautiful. Noda Yehuda says, look at Rashi. Pashut Pshat and Rashi, like we learned, is that an umbrella should be mutter to open on Shabbos. Why? It's avid v'koi. It's all together. They're not creating anything new with this all. All you're doing is opening an existing all that was closed. Now you're opening it. No problem. However, says the Noda Yehuda, Avol zeb be'emes ein kavanas Rashi. That's not pshat in Rashi. That's not the way to learn Rashi. Sharei darei lo fi zeh kasha gam b'talos kfulu. What was that? And then he says like this, next paragraph down. 4 lines down, he says, "Ubivadai kavanas Rashi." So therefore, what is pshat in Rashi? The matikot of the lav midi ovid, ashikot of the hashta ovid ohel. He goes back to the first Rashi on Kisei, and he says over there, what does it mean? Rashi said something very interesting over there. Turn back to Rashi just 1 second over there so you can understand what the Noda Yehuda is saying. Says Rashi aval mita. He says over here, when you flip over the table, even though you're making an ohel right now, making whole oivei, that's also shari, it's still permissible. What does Rashi mean then if you're making an ohel but it's mutter? Says over here, says the kavanah of Rashi in the Noda Yehuda. Rashi madekatav the lab midi ovid. Ashekatav the hashti ovid ohel. Mikol makom lav midei ovid de'ein ohel elu b'mashet tzarich la'aver shetachtav. What he means here, even though technically you're making something that is mahil, nevertheless, that's only when you do for the of your tachtav. V'za'eno asli la'aver shetachtav. And a table's not made for the aver tachtav, rather it's made al yisuva ba'alma. V'zeh poshet b'kavanaso. He says that's pshat in Rashi, like the Ritva learned Rashi, that it's not made for underneath. That's what I mean. Even though you're technically making an ohel right now, since it's not made for underneath, that's why it's mutter v'hua din kisei traskel and hua din asla. That's the heter, like the Ritva learned Rashi, not like we learned the Pashat Pshat in Rashi. So the Noda Yehuda brings the Pashat Pshat in Rashi, and perhaps that's the pshat. And then he rejects it and he says, no, it's the Ritva's pshat, without mentioning the Ritva over here. He says the Ritva's pshat, that's the pshat in Rashi. And therefore, that's why the Mitriya is really going to be us. Oh, we're still bothered. And what's it mean? Ovid v'koi? What does it mean that it's Ovid v'koi? It's all together over here. What about that? He answers that. Elevade, 2 lines down. So let's start with him. In Cain. Lama hutzach b'kisei traspelasli tin tam David v'koi. He's bothered by this also. We said the pshat is Ohel. That's not pshat in Rashi. Elevadai the Ovid v'koi lo al Ohel koi. He's not coming to answer why this is not a problem. All he already answered it by Shulchan. Da all be'emes lav Ovid v'koi. She'ikra Ohel whoever ben shetir ben rachitzes v'chule v'chule. Okay, skip down 4 lines. So then what is Kavanas Rashi? Aval Kavanas Rashi, the Rashi Lishitaso, Dio Mefarish Hani Churi Masisa Mika, Baisham Lab Bidini Ohel Luchudmeyer. Because these sugyas, we don't have to only worry and look in a box, Dine Ohel. There's another side problem that's problematic. When you open up these folding chairs, when you open up this chair, this Kisei Trasko and Asa. Why? The Kisei Galin that we said is Pater level Asr at the beginning of the Gemara, Rashi says it's a problem of Shemayitka, a problem of Bone. Even though I already answered you in Rashi a couple of Rashis ago, that's no problem. But you're making a chair that's binyan. Forget about Ohel. Pile Ployim says the Noda Yehuda, the Avid the Kai is not answering Ohel. It's answering why it's not a problem of binyan. It's not a problem of binyan. And by the way, he could read this into Rav Prachya. Also, the brother-in-law of the Rambam, he could read this pshat also into Rabbeinu Prachya. The Avid Kai is really going on binyan, even though the way that we learn Rashi, the other way of learning Rashi, Rabbeinu Prachya would say is more pashut. Even though he says the words binyan, he's talking about their Ovdinei Ohel. Remember, Ohel is a Tolda of binyan. But that comes so beautifully, once again, to summarize the Noda Yehuda, we have this din of Kisei Traska. He says, according to the first understanding of Rashi, David V'kai is answering what Ohel, why it's mutter mitam Ohel, a mitriya should be mutter to open up on Shabbos. But he says that's not pshat in Rashi. Pshat in Rashi is like the ritva, that it's not used for the avir tachtav. And therefore, an umbrella obviously is made for the avir tachtav. An umbrella would not be a heter based on this Rashi. Oh, you have the problem of the koi. Of the koi is not answering Ohel, the problem of Ohel. It's answering the problem of the Av Malacha, or at least the Rabbanan of the Av Malacha, that it is a problem of binyan when you open up the kisei. And that Rashi is saying no. It's Ovid v'kai, and therefore it is mutter. So this Mineu Bey, the 2 ways of understanding Rashi, Poshet, Pshat, and Rashi, is the answer to our question whether it is mutter to open up an umbrella on Shabbos. That's what the Noda Yehuda presents over here. And based on his understanding of Rashi, he says it is usher to open up an umbrella, in addition to the fact you have the rif in our back of our minds that you're dealing with the Pasal Issa Daraisa. Masha Ein Kain. Masha Ein Kain, the Chazon Ish learns Rashi, or at least learns the Sugya, like we originally learned in Rashi. Says the Chazon Ish, page 23 of your Mar Makomos, Simin Nun Beis, Sivav. Look at this beautiful print of the Chazon Ish that you got the ability to learn from. You don't have the hard Rashi letters over here. You got the nice print over here. It says, Direi no the beauty parcel b'Shabbos einu misyashvim. I don't like the way the Noda Yehuda learns. We know where the Chazon Ish is going over here. Okay? He says over here, the Korchak Mayri, 4 lines down. Gam mechitzas l'dasas the below mechitzas el motor. O the iron beged sheish bo mituach umikol makom kevan shu guf echad. Since it's all one body, v'chein derech tashmisho ein kan ohel. Since it's all one goof, and all you're doing is opening it up, that is not creating an ohel on Shabbos. The hainu daha avid v'koi, like Rashi's first the way that we originally understood Rashi, the way that the Noah says that there was the Pashat Pshat in Rashi, even though he rejects it, he goes with the Pashat Pshat on understanding what Avid V'Kayis. And then the Chazon Ish goes on and he says, that there are two rayas to this. One is the Magen Avraham, page 7 of our Mar Mekaymus. The Magen Avraham, Siman Shin Tez Vav, Sivkot and Ches. The Magen Avraham tells us, okay, Mutter Lefotcho, he's going on our din over here about the Kisei Trask. And he says over here, Mutter Leftocho, Delo Midi Ovid, because you're not doing it. Eli Yisuv Alma, Mashma, that he understood Rashi like the original way of understanding Rashi. Rashi Shaski V'Kulechana, Dimar Masal V'Mito, he brings down Mito. For this reason, you're allowed to put up a chuppah and take it down. I know a chuppah on 4 kundis and 4 poles, and you spread out the poles, and now the chuppah's over your head. Says the Magen Avraham, that's going to be mutter. Okay, but also the stender in the back of your chair in the base Knesset, you open it up on Shabbos, all those are going to be mutter. Why are they going to be mutter? Says the Chazon Ish, based on this Magen Avraham, back to page 23. He says, "V'hainu naimi time to lami menu Magen Avraham heter prises a chuppah afal gaftem mechavin la'oel." Even though you are making an oel over here, putting a chuppah over their heads, okay, that's why it's going to be mutter. It's because it's avid v'kai. It's all together. It's all one piece. And he says that's also pshat in the Darkei Moshe and the Ramah in Hilchos Sukkah and Timin Tov Reish Chavav, page 6 of our Mar Mekomos. The Ramah and the Darkei Moshe and the Ramah in the Shulchan Aruch are discussing a roof that goes over the sukkah that's on hinges. Okay, it either opens or closes or rolls out on hinges. It's all connected. One thing says the Darkei Moshe towards the end of the piece, page 6 of your Mar Mekomos. V'linira de'ein kan tema klal. Since these roofs are made with hinges, to open and unclose. Ein bo iser klal, there is no iser at all. Just like you could open and close your door in your house. How could you open a door and close your door house? Your bona, your soser. Okay, so over here, you're opening a OL, closing an OL. No! Says since it's on Sirim, Midi Adal shall be the bite, so Vevet al Sirim, O Dloto shall bor v'dusha potchin v'sogan, leis behu chashash iser, once it is on hinges. And all you do is a mice of opening and closing, that is not a problem of OL on Shabbos. Says the Chazon Ish back on page 23. V'ainu naimi time in the matir liftoch delat hagag. Shalos sukkah, you have this dela of the gag of your sukkah. V'li stone basic in order to close it when it's raining and stuff like that. Anything that's going to be kavua. All you do is open it and close it. Even though it's going to technically be an oil over your head, says the Chazon Ish, that it is going to be mutter. Okay? So the Chazon Ish brings two fascinating, beautiful rayas over here to the first understanding of Rashi, the Avid V'Kai, anything that is connected from beforehand, and all you do is Maisa opening and closing it, that's all going to be mutter on Shabbos. Okay? That's all going to be mutter on Shabbos. Now, even though the Chazon Ish, in a very short amount of time, only about 10, 15 lines over here, completely rejects the Nod Yehuda by the umbrella, nevertheless, the Chazon Ish himself goes on about 5 lines down, he says, Mashiach Ladon in terms of this umbrella, not in terms of OL, not binyan, rather Mishum Tikun Mana, Kevin the Psichaso Roy Lishamish Bebechol Makom, Chashiv Tikun Mana, you could say it's a Tikun Mana. Femi priestess old makom zeh, v'gam av shamilsa tvei, v'nikar ba'uvda dekol, v'gorim pirtza. Okay, he starts throwing in words. It's like not Shabbos stick and things like this. It's Av Shemilsa, Uvda Dechol, Gorim Pirza. L'chora, what he means by Gorim Pirza is what a lot of other poskim point out when you're learning the sugya, and you have to know in the background what was going on over here. The first ones to go ahead and use umbrellas on Shabbos were the Reform Jews. And therefore a lot of Rabbanim were very scared to matter the umbrella because there was the Reform Jews, they're the ones that use the umbrella on Shabbos. And l'chor, that's shot over here. It's Gorim Pirza, Kechas Shalom, Gorim Pirza and Klal Yisrael if we allow these things. But he does answer it. The Chazon Ish does answer it. And that's the Lashon of Morenu Rabbeinu Rav Nevinsel, Dir Ramas and the Siyas in the old edition. He brings it down. He says over there, El de Oser Hamitriya, Hova no de Biyuda Osra. Okay, the Chazon Ish says, and at the end of the day, we have this no de Biyuda, Choshish for Chatas. That's really why we asked our umbrella, because the no de Biyuda did it. It's Lahotzi Miliba Mir Reformim, and things like that. And also the Be'er Halacha, page 20 and 21, he also brings down the Mekilim and the Machmirin over here, and he ends up saying over here, Hal-Kain, the bottom of page 21, Hal-Kain, Hashomer, Nafshot, Yirchak, Mizema'ot. Okay, after bringing down the Novi Yehuda, he says, Hashomer, Nasho will stay away from this legamri. You have to realize also, though, the mitzias of umbrellas were a little bit different. As you saw in the Be'er Halacha, you had to tie it up. After you open it up, you had to tie it up in order for it to stay like that. So it could be the mitzias somewhat changed. But at the end of the day, seemingly from the poskim, everyone answers the umbrella, either because chashash is chatas, or because their understanding of Rashi only things that are made for underneath, and therefore there's a mamish problem of Ohel, at least on the Derabanan level, like the Noda B'Yehuda, or like the Chazon Ish. There are less reasons, problematic halachic reasons, but still answers them. Av Shemilsa, and perhaps Tikkun Mana, and Gorim Pirza, and things like this. And now we can understand the Lashon of the Shmir Shabbos Ke'ilchasa. You open up the Shmir Shabbos, page 27 of your Marmikowas Perich of Dalet. Halacha Tezvav says the Shmir Shabbos, listen to his Lashon. Geder Godru Gedoli Adoros. Okay? V'amru shein liftach mitriyahu shim Shabbos Shabbos v'yantif. You don't open up an umbrella on Shabbos because of Geder Gidru Gedoli Adoros. V'gamim heim ptuchos mibod yom. And even if you open up from before Shabbos, maybe you could say, just open up before Shabbos, you get out of the halachic reasons. You should still not use them. Even not only because of Hotzah. You see over here, clearly the Lashon Lishmir Shabbos Kilchasa is screaming the Lashon of the Chazon Ish over here, that this is a problem because the Gedolei Doros decided that one should not use an umbrella on Shabbos. That's why it's going to be Usr, and therefore don't even use it. Don't start with kunzas, you open it up before Shabbos, and the like. That is going to be Usr. Except for the position of Rameshash, who brings down in your extra Marmakomos, page 15, the Sefer Mayim Chaim brings down that the Yotzei in Morocco, the minhag in Morocco was to use umbrellas, and he says, don't be mocha biyodom. Kimat, all the poskim say, don't use an umbrella on Shabbos, including also Rav Avadia, page 26 of your Marmakomos. He ends up saying that is also Asr Lif Toach Mitriya Lenoso Lav B'Shabbos Lahagi. Okay, so we have for sure the Noda B'Yehuda. Okay, even the Chasam Sofer in the end does not allow it. You have the Chazon Ish, you have the Shmir Shabbos Ke'ilchasa, the Be'er Halacha. Everyone is saying not to use an umbrella on Shabbos. Okay, once again, a lot Laniya's Daiti has to do with the fact that this came from the Reformim. They were the first ones to use it, and yes, that makes halachic implications, as we'll see in the Hemshech. Now, but based on whether you have a Chazon Ish learning or a Noda B'Yehuda learning, there could be major nafkaminas whether you hold it's Asr Maker de Dinah, or there are side reasons why this are Asr. Okay? What about other things that don't have the big problems that maybe a Mitriya has? Or maybe certain things that both the Noda B'Yehuda would also agree on. So number one, we have to ask ourselves, what is the Noda B'Yehuda going to do with the rayos that the Chazon Ish brings? he has a Magen Avram, he has a Darkei Moshe. L'chora, great rayas that anything that is connected is not a problem of Ohel on Shabbos. So we turn back to the Noda B'Yehuda once again, turn back to page 15 of Ramar Makomos, and not only other than the Noda B'Yehuda deals with both rayas of the Chazon Ish. Page 15 over here, he first deals in the second column. First paragraph towards the end, he brings down the Magen Avram. He says, Magen Avram, Mesiv Katan Chas, Be'emes Katan D'la Midi Avid, Eli Yesuva Hach Kisi Asuyu Prak. He uses that Rashi that the Noda B'Yehuda learned earlier on, and uses it dafka seemingly against the Noda B'Yehuda, and says you can open up a chuppah on Shabbos. A chuppah, that's made for underneath. You see the Magen Avram L'chor is against the Noda B'Yehuda. Says the Noda B'Yehuda, Ksat Tochuk, but this is what he says. L'chor yesh lidchos. Da chuppah tzarich la'aver shetach da'avav Ohel. V'lachein nira. This savar Magen Avram, kevan sheina chuppah nasis lahagei minei shemesh. Oh, Geshem, since a chuppah, it's not there to protect you from the rain or the sun. Rak lekavod chasen v'kala, gam kein lo nikrei ohel. Even though it's made for underneath a chuppah, but since it's made for a chasen v'kala and not to protect from the rain or the sun, that's not really what an Ohel is usually used for, and therefore that's why it can be makel by the chuppah. Not because it's avid v'koi, like we learned in the Chazon Ish wants to use it as a raya. But rather, says the Noda B'Yehuda, rejects that raya, and it says, no, it's not made for underneath. Okay? But then he says, what about the Darkei Moshe? All the hinges and all the things are connected in the umbrella. The ways that you open up the umbrella and close the umbrella. That should be like a hinge. That should be similar to the Ramah that we bring down in the Shulchan Aruch. It is brought down in the Akshemar because on page 3 and 4 that things are made on Sirin are going to be mutter like on top of the sukkah. And he says, besides for that, the Marel is Oser. But at the end of the day, the Ramah passes the Kula. However, he says, V'omnon, Eina nidon doma, smack in the middle of paragraph Odyesh Lodun. He says, you can't compare the sukkah case to the Mitriya. Disham amrinin shezek modelet. Over there we could say that this closing on top of the sukkah is just like a door. Ki ikra bayis or a bor v'dus omeid v'zedelet shlo muvato olav. The door of your house, opening and closing your door of house, that's mutter because it's bottled to the home. This gag of the sukkah is bottled to the sukkah. Avokan osa eskulo. But over here, the umbrella is not bottled to anything. That is it in itself. And therefore, that is creating a thing in itself, and therefore it's going to be asr. And therefore, the Noda B'Yehuda rejects the raya from the Darkei Moshe, the Ramah, because he says there's a difference between something that's just part of something, and therefore it can be bottled to it, till it's a thing in and of itself, and therefore it's going to be asr like the umbrella. And therefore, he ends off, he says, after he rejected the Magen Avram and the Darkei Moshe, the Noda B'Yehuda says at the end of the paragraph, Derech Klauchi Pastoral Cold Study a Parcel. I've looked into all the studying, all the Torah when it comes to umbrella. V'lo matzad nutzad heter. I've not found the reason to be makel, says the Noda B'Yehuda. Okay? And he goes into what about opening it before Shabbos a little bit. Fine. So therefore, that's how the Noda B'Yehuda rejects the rayas of the Chazon Ish. Nevertheless, it seems to be that the Iker is with the Chazon Ish. It's mashma from the Pri Megadim, page 8 of your extra Maramakomos. If you look inside the Pri Megadim, it sounds like he learns the Magen Avram, like the Sugya, like Rashi, like the previous understanding of Rashi, that the Heter is Ovid V'Koi. It seems like this is the pshat, like we saw earlier on in the Shmira Shkabas Kilchasa Perik Kav Dalad Yud Gimel. That anything that is ancillary, everything that's connected, is considered Ovid V'Koi. And Laniya's daiti, that's pshat in the Mishnah Berurah himself. Because the Mishnah Berurah, when we open up this halacha, okay, page 19 of our Maramakomos, right? We said over here that from the Mechaber you can't tell. He just tells you the heter of kisei hasui leprachim mutar lepatcha lechatchila. Says Mishnah Berurah Sif Katan Gav Zayin. You have to see the whole Mishnah Berurah. Mutar lepatcha to avid v'koi mi ba'od yom. It's avid v'koi mi ba'od yom. That's coming from the heter of avid v'koi. Dinei ohel, not binyan like the Noda B'Yehuda side, but that's not it. The avid v'koi mi ba'od yom. El sheposhto miyashu k'dei leishav alav. And that's the reason why you can open up a chuppah. And then he says like this. So too you can open up that stender on the back of the chair to put your siddur, your chumash on top of it. That's also going to mutter. All this is mutter. Why? Because of avid v'kai. Now here comes the diak. He says, Miu b'dav b'lav ha'chishar. Oh, by the way, we have another reason why the daf should also be mutter. Why? Daha ein kavana so b'masha posted a daf l'shem ohel. Because you don't have the kavana to create an ohel. The in kain ein alav shem ohel rai kevin shu below mechitzas. Meaning you don't do it for an ohel. You do it to use on top. That's the Noda B'Yehuda's understanding. That's the Ritva's learning. So it sounds like he starts off with a different heter. That's not the heter that he starts with the Kisei Traskel. Mashma the Iker heter is what? Ovid v'koi. Like the original way of understanding Rashi. Like the Chazon Ish understood it. Like the Pashas L'Prima Godim understood it. That's what I believe in the heart of hearts is the Pashup Shot over here in the Mishnah Berurah. Also, that he has more of a learning like the way that the Pashup Shot of Rashi Ovid v'koi is going on Dinei Ohel. But on the other hand, not everyone paskins like this. Ramoshin, a very interesting tshuva, Chelik Dalid Siman Kufei, end of Oz Gimel, page 21 of your Mar Mekomos. He says one has to be machmer for the Noda B'Yehuda. He says, over here, we'll get to his example in 1 second. He says, Ve'eni susiliv hishala ayim b'zaharbi. I don't really have time to l'ayim b'zaharbi right now. L'chein yesh l'hachmer over here, like the dinim of the Noda B'Yehuda. Okay, fine. That's also the Or L'Tzion, Ben Zion Abba Shaul, in page 6 of your extra Mar Mekomos. He also seems to be machmer like this. And it's also mashra from the Aruch HaShulchan. Aruch HaShulchan, page 5 of your extra Mar Mekomos. Okay, he says over there, V'yei abai, the umbrella v'yeshbo ke'ein iser Torah. Okay, he sounds like he has a limit like the Noda B'Yehuda, the machmer for the sheet of the Rif. So not everyone rejects legamre this Noda B'Yehuda like the Chazon Ish does, but we did see the Chazon Ish, the Pashas of the Prima Godim, the Shmir Shabbos Kehilchsa, and our diak in the Mishnah Berurah sounds more not like a limud of the Noda B'Yehuda, but rather like a limud of the Chazon Ish. And we get to some very important nafkaminas. Let's get to these nafkaminas right now. One is, what about a hood of a stroller? What about a hood of a stroller? Okay, what about a hood of a stroller? Says the Chazon Ish Beferish, page 23 of your Mar Mekomos, once again, going back to our same Chazon Ish. A couple lines later, says the Chazon Ish at the end of your highlighted part, he says, Mina Omer Nilmad da Galot Shel Tinokos Sheyesh Aleihem Sukkah Memnim Tachas V'Nikpeles. That is a hood that opens up and closes. Mutter L'motcha U'mutter L'kapla. Those you could open up and close. Afrika Shemotcha Segam Mechitza V'gam Kavanah Solitzel. Your Kavanah is to protect the child, and it's for tzel. V'yesh V'gam Ketavach Mikol Makom Teva and Tasukah Kfua Ba'agala. Since it is connected to the Gala, V'asuilin Tosala Kapel Chashiv Kedela de Soveros here. It's just like opening and closing a door. Uka Kisei Traskel. It's Mamashar Heter of Kisei Traskel. That's the Gag Shalag alone, and that's also the Psak of the Shmir Shabbos Kehilchasa, page 10 and 11 of your extra Mar Mekomos. Says the Shmir Shabbos over here, top of the page, not in the highlighter. V'chein muter liftach shimshah kshimuchu beres lagalat yiladim od yom. Any type of hood that's on top of your stroller that's connected, if it's not connected, that's going to be a much bigger problem. But as long as it's connected, you're allowed to go ahead and open it and close it. It's just like opening and closing the door. That's going to be mutter. And furthermore, says the Shmir Shabbos Kehilchasa, what about an umbrella? Not that you hold in your hand and you walk around the street with, but an umbrella that's tekua bekarka, the ones that they have in restaurants to protect people from the sun. You put a table there, the sun umbrellas. Aval shimshit gina. You have a garden visor. Okay, an umbrella of the garden. Tekua bekarka mi ba'od yom o schacha shel peset. Or you have one of these tarps like they have outside of restaurants and things like this that open and close the awning. You can open them and close it. They're on tzirim, they're on hinges. You can open them and close them on Shabbos. It's all going to be mutter, says the Shmir Shabbos Kehilchasa. And then I was just thinking, what about the Noda B'Yehuda? So we know both Or L'Tzion, page 6, and Rav Moshe, page 21, that's what they were talking about over there, and they say, according to the Noda B'Yehuda, this would be Asr. Rav Moshe said, I don't have time to look into it too much, but since the Noda B'Yehuda says Asr, l'chara, we have to be Machmir. And therefore, that's a major nafkamina. Opening the hood of your stroller is going to be Asr. Only, says Rav Moshe, if it's already niftach tefach, it's already opened up a tefach from before Shabbos, now you can open it up fully. Maybe the Noda B'Yehuda would agree to this. Why? Based on the Darkei Moshe. The Darkei Moshe says the Noda B'Yehuda, the only heter was over there is that there was batel to the thing itself. By a mitriyah, which is a thing in of itself, there's nothing to be batel. You're creating an ohel all by itself. Masha ain't a door of a house, or this tarp on top of the sukkah that is covering the sukkah, that's batel to the sukkah. The delta is batel to the bayis. Why don't we say so too over here? Perhaps the Noda B'Yehuda would say the hood of the stroller is batel to the stroller itself, and that maybe even the Noda B'Yehuda would be makel on the delta stroller. So beautiful. That's why you got to learn inside what is that. You're not just the Noda B'Yehuda is makar. Why was he makar? What does he do with the kulas over here? Based on that, agreed Moreinu v'Rabbeinu Rav Nevinsal that one could easily say, and I believe other Achronim say this also within the Noda B'Yehuda, that perhaps the Noda B'Yehuda would also be makel by the stroller cover to put it on Shabbos. Okay? That's all by the Rav Moshe's make machmer in the end of the day. Rav Ben Sion Abba is machmer in the day. Those who want to be machmer, there's room to be machmer, not saying other than that. But just over here we have the Chaznish, the Shmir Shabbos. I would say the Pashas of the Mishnah Berurah, and even one could even say in the Noda B'Yehuda, there is room to be makel. But everyone's going to have a problem though, putting that large plastic cover that completely covers the stroller when it's raining outside, and you want to protect your baby on Shabbos, to put that over the stroller, that yesh lodom before. That's not connected to the stroller. You are putting an ohel over the baby. However, once again, if you learn like the Chaznish, you have a very simple way of putting on that plastic cover. Once you open up the gag of the stroller, you already have a ohel arai that is already open a tefach. If you now spread this plastic over the stroller, all you are doing is mosif al ohel arai. Beautiful mechaber last week's limud to this week's limud. You have a beautiful kula based on this to put on the plastic covering, open up the stroller of tefach, and now you're going to put the plastic covering. According to Rav Moshe, you would have had to open up the stroller already at tefach. Then you could put before Shabbos, and then on Shabbos you could put the plastic cover. But the stroller was not opened up at tefach. You can't open the hood of the stroller, and you can't put the plastic covering on top of your baby on Shabbos either. According to this, according to Rav Moshe. Once again, though, there is room, I believe, to be makel even in the lashon of the Noda B'Yehuda. In terms of putting a chuppah, holding the chuppah on poles, okay? Once again, according to the Chaznish, the pashtus of the Magen Avram without the dichui of the Noda B'Yehuda, even if it's asui lahagein, since it's on poles, you're allowed to spread it out. You want to cover the Sefer Torah. It's raining outside. You open up one of these chuppahs in order to cover the Sefer Torah. According to the Chaznish, this is going to be mutter. According to the Noda B'Yehuda, that is going to be asr. Since this, the way that the Shmir Shabbos, Moreinu Rabbeinu Rav Nevinsal, the Shmir Shabbos Kilchasa, understands that even the mitriyah, there's yesh lodun, there's reasons why it should really be mutter me'ikr the din. It's only a problem of av shemilsa and things like this. Told me Morain of Rabbeinu Rav Nevinsal, and it's also brought down by Rav Yitzchak Yosef, the great son of Rav Avadia, page 25 of your extra Mara Mekomos. Over here, if, let's say, your old grandfather wants to go outside and it's raining, wants to go to shul, and he has, a Filipino who helps him out a little bit and gets to shul, walks him to shul on Shabbos, the guy is allowed to open up his own umbrella and hold the mitriya over your grandfather to walk him to shul. That will be mutter. You get rid of the ashamil, so the guy is doing it anyways. And over here, since me'ikr the din, there's room to be makel even for a Jew. Therefore, ayidei guy, it's going to be mutter. That's what Rav Yitzchak Yosef says, and that's what Moreinu Rabbeinu Rav Nevinsal also told me, that this should be mutter to do on Shabbos. There are certain things that it's a davar pashut, that even the Noda B'Yehuda would be mutter with kal v'chomer the Chazon Ish. Some of these things, meaning that there's a heter, that it is also mechubar. You have the heter of Avid V'kai, and you have the heter of Ein Asui for it underneath. One is the examples even in the Gemara, opening up a folding table on Shabbos and folding chairs on Shabbos, l'chora, should be mutter according to the Noda B'Yehuda, even according to the Noda B'Yehuda. Opening up a pack and play on Shabbos, l'chora, I'm not sure I didn't open up a pack and play. If there's a tefach underneath at the bottom of the pack and play, when you open it up, l'chora, you're creating a ohel underneath. Okay, it's made for the top. Therefore, even according to the Noda Yehuda, it should be mutter over here. You can't even say these are made to put your shoes underneath. People don't keep things underneath the pack and play l'chora. It would only be made for on top. It's going to be mutter. L'chora, a high riser bed. Okay, you have the bed that you pull out from underneath the other bed and it pops up. When it pops up, l'chora, when it's underneath the ground, there's no tefach between that and the floor. When you pop it up now, you've created an ohel underneath the high-riser bed. L'chora, maybe that should be a problem of ohel. Once again, according to the Chazon Ish, Shmir Shabbos Kilchasa, no problem. It's Avid V'Kai. It's all connected. There's no problem. But even according to the Noda B'Yehuda l'chora, it is made to be on top of the bed. Over here, you have the bars there. You can't even put shoes underneath there. It's very difficult to use the underneath area over there. L'chora, also according to the Noda B'Yehuda, you would have room to be makel. To open up the shtender on the back of the chair we saw from the Magen Avram and the Mishnah Berurah, Sif Katan Chav Zayin, to open up that shtender that's in the back of the chair in front of Baruch Hashem, that's mutter to do. All those shuls have it. People use it on Shabbos. You have both a term, it's Avid V'Kai, and it's made for on top, not for really the space underneath. We see that is why it is going to be, that's why it's going to be mutter to go ahead and use. In Yeshivat Netiv Aryeh, we have a foldable bima. And when we first started the yeshiva, we had a big, are you allowed to open up the bima on Shabbos? Okay, opening it and closing it. It's got two parts that fold underneath. You open it up and you lift up the top and it comes down and it sits on these two mechitzas at the end. L'chora, you're creating one big mechitza underneath. But Le'nias Daiti, we have three different, perhaps, heterim to rely on to open up that. Number one, we see over there, it's not asui l'tachtav. It's not made for underneath, and it doesn't have dal mechitzas. It only has three mechitzas over there, and therefore that's one, perhaps, mutter reason. Number two, it's asui v'kaiv, ovid v'kai, like we have over here by the kisei traskel over here. And also, perhaps, one kataina, it's a shinui in the seder. Over here, you first lift up the top. Okay, you first do the lamala, and then you bring the lamata underneath the shinui that we learned last week. Perhaps that's another reason why it's going to be mutter. But yesh lidchot, that last raya is because over here for the bima, that's the normal way of building it. Since it's a normal way, it's hard to say that that would be a heter of shinui, like we said before. We're going to leave the sugya of the muchsak, a muchsak b'dei adam, which is the end of the Mar Mekamas. We'll cover Bezrat Hashem in the next shiur because we're running out of time. And I want to finish off Bezrat Hashem with one last nekuda. And that is the words of Rav Tzvi Shachter over here, brought down in pages 16 through 19 of your extra Mar Mekamas. And this is important for us, many who are trying to learn for smicha, who are taking bechinas, are learning sugya so beautifully. but we also have to remind ourselves who we are and where we're holding. Okay? He talks over here in this really piece, is really talking about to the feminist movement who started wearing, we're doing all these sorts of things outside of Orthodox Judaism, wearing tefillin and the like. And he wrote a whole tshuva over here against these ideas. Okay? It's kedai to go through the whole tshuva. It's unbelievable. We do not have time to go through the whole tshuva. But he does bring down over here our Chazon Ish. Page 18 of the Extra Mar Mekomos. He says, V'ayin Chazon Ish. She'afal pisha nir lahater p'ticha sukkah im tachash al gabi agalis titinok. Yesh l'aser p'tichas ha-mitriya mikamatam, even though you could open up the hood of a stroller, but don't open up umbrella, which is very similar on Shabbos. Ve'echad mihem mipnei shegorim pirtza. And one of the reasons is, the Chazon Ish says, as we discussed, is because it's gorim pirtza. V'ulai kavana so kenisker le'el, maybe his kavana is Shemitriya, Shimsha, Kesema, Larisa, Sadas, Beirut, to Europa, Itzlo Reform. The umbrella was a symbol of the destruction of Orthodox Judaism in Europe and the building of Reform Judaism. And therefore, we have to answer it. Even though technically, if you learn the sugi of Ohel Rai, the Lecha Shabbos, even though we learn mutter, says Rosh Shachter a couple times in this piece, you can't just read the Pashtus of the Shulchan Aruch and decide every halacha. Okay, we have to have Gedoli of the Rabbanim, Gedoli Doros, to decide things that are connected to Kal Yisrael. Skipping down to paragraphs. People say, Moshe was Mekal Torah, he gave it over to Yoshua. Sheyesh biyadinu misoras chazaka boven b'sak halacha. Ve'in asada halacha g'sil shal hefker shekol hakodem zacha. We see a Masorah in halacha that you have to follow. Moshe Kibel, and he gave it to Yoshua. Yoshua is a Kenim, is Kenim, Lanchikedes is a Gedolah v'chulei v'chulei. You have to be part of the Masorah. It's not just halacha becomes a hefker velt. It should call a kodem zalim. The kol dalim gvar, whoever decides whatever they want. Umishimaktim lefarsem daito dercha itonim on the internet. Halacha kamoso. Those decide that they have the shoulders and they mefarsem their heterim on the internet or in the newspapers. They think then the halacha is like them. What does it mean? Elef nichnasu ve'echad yotza. Only one Talmud comes out of 1,000 that enter the base. And we see many Talmidim. It means lahora. Only one out of 1,000 can get to the level that they're roi lahora. Voto yochid who's a shishimesh at Rabbu b'yoter. That's the one who's mishamish Talmid Chachamim, who's a shamish his Rebbe more. V'kibul b'damul b'nashu ad Torah. It's not just he learned a little bit, he has Erusin with the Torah. He is married to the Torah, Nisun with the Torah. And he's Mishamish, and Mishamish Rebbeim, and he asks more shilas and more shilas to understand that is not his to decide. He has to have a nivus when it comes to deciding Psak Halacha L'Doros. V'kacha Marabbeinu, shekol Adam Tzarech La'akar, shetzarech L'Rav L'Rebbe. Every Talmid Chacham has to realize he has to have a Rebbe. Va'afilu Talmid Chacham shenifta Rabbo, even after his Rebbe dies. Tzarech Tamid Lishol Le'atzo Be'emes. Ma haya Rabbo Omer Bedino Nezeh. What would my Rebbe say in this case? Okay, he brings down from Rav Bran Shpigel, then a famous Maisa with Rav Soloveitchik, how he changed his mind once he heard from his mother that his father, one of his Rebbeim, would have said differently than him. And therefore, turn to the last paragraph over this. This will end today. Okay? You hear the call from certain people saying, al pi halacha, it's mutter. Any other Rabbanim, they only want to answer, it's political. It's other reasons. You don't have to listen to them for this. They have side reasons why they want to be machmir. Einenu nachon. Shegam inyan zeh shel shini mesora v'chilek atzim min halacha. Uk'shedami al das hanachas tefillin nashim, when you want to dan and Klal Yisrael type of things like woman putting on tefillin. Lo maspeak layin b'shulchan aruch tefillin. You can't just open up the shulchan aruch tefillin mutter asr where it says it's asr absolutely. It's like Is it mutter asr to do something to tie your shoes like this? No, this is a Klal Yisrael dika thing. You have to look at all the tzadim, not just what's lit in the Shulchan Aruch. You need the fifth Shulchan Aruch as the post can bring down. And you skip to the end over here. Ve'ein lebkol musmach o rav mikomi. Not everyone who gets smicha, and not every shul rabbi even, or even city rabbi. Afim kavanasol tova, even though they have good kavanas, they're a good guy. L'chava zedato b'shela kashu, to show that they're what their opinion is, because they're not roi lahara, they're not the echad yotzu. V'kol shekein shelo lefarsim edaito haprati derech hatikshort or internet chas v'sholem. If he's a small nothing to decide that he can mefarsim his das, when it comes to the Gedolei Adora should be deciding these things. Ki she'ela chamura kazeh noglas lekol Klal Yisrael hanamanim lemisora v'rak Gedolei Ara Rishayim la'achriya ba. We have to remember this. That's maybe the most important lesson that we can learn when we're learning halacha be'in. After you learn a sugya and you learn it well, and you're holding in the Behudi in the Chazon Nation, you know all the days, you feel very good. You feel like you know everything. And you can tell it over to your children, you can tell it over to your co-workers, you can tell it over to your friends, and you can show that you're holding mamish in the sugya. But that does not make us Gedolei Adoros, everyone. Okay? We have to remember, even if we pass all the tests and it's unbelievable, and you're working hard, and you're steiging, and you're holding the sugyas, okay? We have to be holding in everything in order to become real Bali Hara. In order to decide Psak Halacha, we have to be connected to the Masorah, and that's what we try and do in this program, is to connect to the Masorah as much as possible, connect to our roots over here in order to decide what is Halacha L'maisa, in order to what to teach the Dorei Doros, and not to veer to the right or to the left from the Masorah that we get from our Rabbanim, who got it from their Rabbanim, who got it from their Rabbanim, all the way back from Moshe Rabbeinu at Har Sinai,